photo slipped out of my husband's coat pocket as he hurried to hang it up after returning from a 2-day business trip to Denver. I hadn't planned to pick it up. I should have ignored it, just like I usually did with the little things, but something in my chest stalled. A strange feeling crept up my spine. I bent down. It wasn't a family photo, not a picture of our son at Sunday's baseball game, not a photo of me, the woman who had stood by him through 11 years of marriage. It was a Polaroid, the old-fashioned kind almost no one uses anymore, staring at me with a false innocence that felt like mockery. My hand trembled as I turned it over. The image appeared slowly, cruelly, as if revealing the truth in the most merciless way. 2 bodies, entwined, in an unfamiliar room lit by soft yellow light. Unmistakable. I stood frozen in the living room of our suburban Minneapolis home. The place I once believed was the safest in the world. The place I once believed was my home. The man in the photo was my husband. Ethan, with the same collarbone and that tiny scar on his left shoulder I used to kiss every night. The woman had her face turned away, long hair cascading over almost all of it. It seemed accidental. But to me it was deliberate. There was something disturbingly familiar. I couldn't quite place it, but it made my chest tighten. Ethan's voice called from the kitchen. "Honey, I'm home." I quickly shoved the photo into the pocket of my cardigan, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. "Did you order Chinese yet? I'm starving." "Da-da," I called out, my voice disturbingly calm. He chuckled, walked over and kissed my forehead like everything was perfectly normal. "Just did. You still want the spicy tofu, right?" I nodded. The unfamiliar scent of new cologne on his shirt made me step half a pace back before I even noticed. That night I lay on my side, watching him sleep. His eyes closed, mouth slightly open, chest rising and falling in rhythm. This man used to be my whole world. And yet now I was lying next to a stranger wearing a familiar face. My body stayed still, my breath even. It wasn't numbness, it was something colder. Acceptance. I just held the photo in my hand, flipping it over and over, as if peeling back its layers would expose more of the truth. The only question echoing in my head wasn't, how long has he been cheating on me, but rather, who is she? And more importantly, why did she feel so familiar? I started changing the next morning, not with questions or tears, but with silence. A deliberate silence. Ethan still woke up early as always, brewed coffee and read the news on his iPad. I simply observed, quietly, like a stranger collecting data on a man who once meant everything. I noticed the odd scent on the collar of his shirts. A perfume that wasn't mine, not any brand I'd ever used. Soft, sweet, with a bitter edge. Sharp, like the smell of betrayal. For the next 3 weeks, I lived as 2 people. One was the Leah Ethan thought he still lived with. Cheerful, punctual, making dinner, asking polite questions. And the other was the real Leah. Quiet, calculated, tracing every clue he left behind. I started with his phone. He always left it face down. One evening, while he showered, I turned it over. It was unlocked. The first message was from someone named J.M. Just 3 words. "Coming over tonight?" Who was J.M.? Not one of Ethan's close friends. Not a coworker I'd met. And when I tapped into the message thread, my heart pounded, like it was trying to escape my chest. "Missed you, I couldn't sleep last night. The dress you said looked great, I picked that one on purpose. Is she suspicious yet?" I read every word, forcing my hands not to shake. The messages went back weeks. This wasn't a fling, not a slip-up. This was a real relationship. Planned, emotional. I dug into his browser history and found out he'd been using a hidden messaging app on a second phone. A second phone. That night, I found it in his car's glove compartment tucked into a worn gray pouch, old, frayed, but still working. When I powered it on, it was also unlocked. As if he believed he was clever enough to hide everything and didn't need to protect it further. The messages on the second phone were from J, not J.M. This time, just J. And this time, nothing was hidden. Long texts, overflowing with such intimacy I had to swallow hard just to keep reading. I still remember how we snuck around behind Leah. She's too busy with parent-teacher stuff and projects. I didn't think I'd ever do this, but when I saw how much you were hurting because of her, I couldn't stay away. A chill raced down my spine. She knew me, knew my work, my children, our routines. Too detailed to be a stranger. One evening, I dug through an old memory box I'd kept, the place where I saved holidays, love notes, little tokens. A silly habit Ethan used to tease me for, calling it your emotional archive. There, I found a birthday card from last year, from my cousin Jenna. Dear Leia, I've always admired you. Strong, successful, and clear about what you want. I hope one day I'll find someone like Ethan. The handwriting was soft and looping, signed J. I set the letter down, my heart tightening. Jenna. 26 years old. Just finished her master's degree last year. Moved to the riverfront neighborhood. Only a 10-minute drive from my house. I had introduced her to Ethan at a Christmas party. They'd laughed together for ages while I was busy prepping food in the kitchen. I hadn't paid attention, because who would suspect a cousin who once hand-drew the designs for your wedding invitations? I wasn't certain, but from that moment on, every glance, every late meeting call from Ethan, every unfamiliar scent, every subtle shift began to take shape. And that shape, shorter than me by a head, loose waves in her hair, always wearing earth-toned lipstick, fit Jenna. Exactly how she'd looked since college. I didn't have final proof, but my instincts told me I wasn't crazy, I was just waking up. I wasn't suspicious anymore, I needed confirmation. 3 days later, when Ethan accidentally left the second phone in the car trunk, the one I'd once unlocked, I quickly copied the entire data set to my personal hard drive. Hundreds of messages, photos, notes. I didn't read them all at once, I filtered. In one of the message threads, amid all the flirty words and complaints about me as if I were the one intruding on their love story, there was one line that chilled me to the bone. Don't forget Saturday dinner at Aunt Carol's, you have to play your part. Aunt Carol's house. That meant my mom. Saturday night. That meant our monthly family dinner where my mom always made her traditional lasagna, where my brother came with his wife and kids, where I brought dessert, where everything once felt warm and connected. Turns out, it was the stage for a performance soaked in betrayal. It felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water straight into my chest. Jenna, my cousin, the one who once called me her role model, the one who had asked me to review her thesis, who sent me a thank you card with shaky handwriting from crying too hard. The one who stayed with me for the first 6 months after moving to Minnesota because this city feels too big, and you've always been the safest place I know. I remembered her 32nd birthday. We made pizza together at home, drank wine, played indie music, and she sobbed over a boyfriend who vanished without a word. I had held her, comforting her, whispering, "One day, someone who deserves you will come along, Jenna, someone who truly values what you bring." She had buried her face into my shoulder and cried. Maybe, that night, the person she was thinking of was my husband. I didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal itself, or the fact that the one who betrayed me was someone I loved like blood. I didn't confront Jenna. I didn't say anything to Ethan. I simply sat in my reading room, an old notebook open in front of me. On the first page was the guest list from my wedding to Ethan. Jenna had been my maid of honor. I marked her name with a red pen, not to cross it out, but to remember. The one who knows you best is the one who can cut deepest. That Saturday night, I still went to my mother's house. Wearing a beige knit dress, Jenna once said it made me look like a CO from a magazine. I stepped into the kitchen, filled with the scent of melting cheese and fresh basil. My mother, turning the lasagna in the oven, smiled. "Jenna brought dessert tonight, that lemon cream pie you girls both love." I gave a faint tilt of my head. Jenna always knew how to score points. She arrived about 10 minutes after me. Same light steps. Same radiant eyes and airy voice. "Leah, I've missed you so much." I gave her a quick hug. Just long enough to avoid suspicion, but short enough for me to meet her eyes. She didn't blink, not the slightest flicker. And that's when I knew Jenna didn't think she had done anything wrong. She thought she was the one chosen. Throughout dinner, Ethan and Jenna performed flawlessly, not a single misstep, Not one careless glance or accidental brush of hands. But I saw everything. I saw how Jenna sat far from me but close to Ethan. Saw how she laughed a little too loudly when Ethan told a story, as if she hadn't heard it before. Saw how Ethan's eyes lit up with something unspoken when she leaned back, laughing. No one else noticed, but I did, because I used to be the one that look was meant for. After dinner, Jenna walked up and handed me a small box. I made lavender cookies, your favorite. Take them home for tomorrow night, okay? I took it and smiled. Thank you, I'll save 'em. That same night, I tossed the cookies in the trash without opening the lid. I went home, opened my laptop, and pulled up the image file I had named Truth. On screen appeared dozens of photos captured by the hidden camera I had installed in Ethan's car just a week earlier. One of the files captured the moment Jenna stepped into the car and leaned down to kiss him. There was even a video she giggled and said, "She'll never suspect a thing, why worry?" I stared at the screen for a long while and the pain was gone. During the day, I was still the perfect wife, making Ethan's coffee just the way he liked, asking about work, even suggesting we plan that summer trip to Charleston he always talked about. I even laughed, kissed him goodbye before leaving the house. But at night, when every light in the house was off, I sat alone in the study, lit only by the glow of my laptop screen. In front of me were folders labeled photos, car, messages, second phone, audio, hotel room, and one final folder titled Jenna. I had hired a private investigator named Amanda, a woman in her 40s, quiet, razor sharp, and an expert at staying hidden. I found her through a private forum for women who had faced betrayal and needed tools to fight back. Amanda didn't ask many questions. When I asked her to track Ethan and Jenna, she simply said, "I don't care why, I just get results." And she did. Within 10 days, Amanda sent me nearly 200 photos, 12 videos, 6 audio recordings, and a 23-page report detailing every time Ethan met Jenna at a secret rental apartment in the St. Paul area. That apartment was under the name J.M. Campbell. I looked it up. It stood for Jenna Marie Campbell. Ethan paid the rent each month through a secondary credit card linked to his company. This wasn't just infidelity. It was embezzlement. Amanda also discovered that Jenna never actually worked at the nonprofit she listed on LinkedIn. She was being paid by Ethan through his consulting firm. A regular stipend, labeled as media expenses. I backed up everything, secured it with a private password, and stored a second copy on an external drive hidden at my mother's house. Not a single detail was overlooked. Next came the emails. Ethan always thought he was clever, using a separate email account for personal matters. But he forgot I was the one who set up the entire home security and tech system. And I hadn't forgotten a single password. I found dozens of emails between Ethan and Jenna, sent through fake domains like Art Resources and Vision Plus. In them, they discussed plans to launch an art exhibit for Jenna. Not because she had talent, but because Ethan had pressured a longtime client, Harlan and York Gallery, to take her in exchange for an expanded contract. I printed the entire thread and highlighted the more noteworthy lines. She's Leah's cousin, but no one needs to know that. We're playing a big game and we're winning. This exhibit will be the launchpad, just make sure to impress her dad. My dad. The same man who had always questioned Jenna's capabilities, saying she was too emotionally driven. Now, Jenna was trying to win him over, by any means necessary. I also found a lease agreement for the gallery space, signed by Ethan, with rental costs more than double the market rate. The reason? To secure artist priority rights. I remembered when Jenna came to my house with that cake, smiling as she spoke about her first real opportunity. I had thought it was perseverance. But it was well-funded deception. I replayed one of Amanda's audio files, Jenna speaking softly on the phone. Leah will never find out. She lives in her world of work and kids. Ethan belongs with me, not her. That sentence repeated twice. I saved it as Ethan's custom ringtone, a reminder. On those nights I still lay beside Ethan, still brushed his back lightly, still whispered, "Good night." He had no idea I had assembled a complete file, divorce papers, a professional ethics complaint, and a civil suit brief, in case he ever tried to fight. I chose the last Saturday of the month, right when Ethan was due to receive his promotion to regional director at work. The event invitation read, "Celebration for Ethan's promotion and Jenna's first gallery exhibit." I sent invitations to every member of our family, both sides, my parents and Ethan's parents. No one suspected a thing. Everyone assumed I had finally moved past the recent tension and was ready to repair everything. I arranged the meal more meticulously than ever. My mom's favorite lasagna, honey-glazed ribs for my father-in-law, and Jenna's favorite fruit salad that she always posted on Instagram with the caption, "Taste of Home." The house was spotless. Soft music played in the dining room. But behind the crystal glassware cabinet was a mini projector connected to my tablet, where I had queued up the slideshow of truth. Jenna arrived 15 minutes late. Cream-colored dress, loosely curled hair, holding a box of matcha mousse cake. "I'm so sorry, traffic was awful, but I couldn't miss this special night for anything." She smiled at Ethan, a smile only I recognized, the look of someone who believed she had already won. Ethan smiled back, brief and practiced, like someone who had grown too comfortable with lies. Dinner began. Laughter, the clinking of silverware, nostalgic stories being shared. I sat at the head of the table and raised my glass. "Thank you all for being here. Tonight is not just about celebrating Ethan's new role. It's also a moment for me to reflect on the journey we've taken together. I have a small gift to share." I pressed the button on the remote. The projector lit up, casting a bright beam onto the white wall behind my parents. The first photos were from my wedding with Ethan, followed by family pictures over the years, then a picnic last summer. Everyone smiled, nodded, Jenna even clapped lightly. I continued, my voice still calm. "But there are things I've only just learned, things that made me see everything in a very different light." The screen shifted to images of Ethan and Jenna at the St. Paul apartment, clearly captured by the investigator's camera. The room dropped into a dead silence. I didn't stop. Next was an audio clip of Jenna on the phone. "Leah will never find out. She lives in her world of work and kids. Ethan belongs with me, not her." Jenna shot up from her chair. "Leah, this..." I raised my hand to cut her off. "Not done yet." The screen continued with emails between Ethan and the director of Harlan and York Gallery, outlining an agreement to give Jenna a priority exhibit in exchange for a business contract. My father clenched his fists, his eyes red. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. "I've also sent these documents to Ethan's corporate ethics committee and the city's arts council this morning. Jenna's exhibition has been canceled, and Ethan, an emergency meeting is scheduled for Monday at 8 a.m. Ethan jumped to his feet. "Are you insane? You just destroyed everything." "You destroyed it first. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage." I walked to the buffet table and pulled out 2 sealed envelopes. "These are the divorce papers. I've signed them. All you need to do is sign, and I won't file criminal charges for the company funds you misused." I placed the second envelope in front of Jenna. "This is a legal disclaimer removing you from the family will. It includes repayment for the debt you owe me over the past 3 years, with interest. Sign it, and I won't release the clip where you call me a clueless idiot blinded by love." Neither of them moved. I looked directly at Jenna. "You think you know me? You have no idea how many contracts, how many legal projects I've handled. You saw a gentle exterior and assumed you were smarter. But you forgot. Silence doesn't mean weakness." No one said a word, only the faint clink of wine against glass. I took a deep breath. "Ethan, Jenna, I don't need an apology. I just need you both out of my life." And this time, my entire family stood with me. No one took their side. After that night, no one in the family looked at Jenna the same way again. My father was the first to break the silence. "Get out. Now." His voice wasn't loud, but it was solid as stone. My mother sat frozen, tears falling onto her half-finished plate. She didn't yell. She didn't defend them like I had feared. She just said one sentence. "After what you did to your cousin? What do you think this family still means to you?" Jenna didn't protest. She didn't move, her face drained of color, fingers gripping her purse as if hoping someone would step in and absorb the shame for her. But no one stepped forward. Ethan stayed rooted to the spot, eyes fixed on the floor. No more reactions, no more anger. Just a man fully exposed, stripped bare in front of both families. The next day, Ethan moved out. I didn't see him off. He didn't apologize, he just left a note with a new address, a short-term rental near the airport. I mailed back the notarized divorce papers with a message, "Return the half of my life you took by signing on time." 3 days later, his lawyer responded. Ethan accepted all terms. No disputes, no demands, not a word about our son. The same son Ethan once swore he'd never abandon. Ethan's company issued an internal memo. Position temporarily suspended, reassigned to Seattle office pending internal review. Everyone understood it was a soft way to push him out. Jenna disappeared from social media. No more morning coffee selfies, no more night painting videos. I heard from my mother that Jenna had moved in temporarily with an old friend in Chicago. A week later, someone said she was working part-time at a small bookstore, avoiding conversation with anyone. My mother sometimes mentioned Jenna, but she never pressured me to forgive. She understood which boundaries had been broken forever. Those who once admired Jenna in the art community started asking questions. Harlan and York Gallery came under ethical investigation, and their next exhibit was postponed indefinitely. Someone even called me the smartest wife of the year in a quietly viral blog post on Reddit. But I no longer cared. I sold the old house right after the divorce was finalized. Even though I held the deed, I couldn't live inside the walls that had silently witnessed such ruthless betrayal. I bought a penthouse in a quiet neighborhood on the west side of Minneapolis. It has a wide balcony where I grow lavender and mint, and a long bench where I drink tea in the mornings by myself. Friends began to return. People who once kept their distance while Ethan played the perfect husband suddenly reached out, checked in. Not out of curiosity, but because they knew I had stepped out of the dark. One time Ethan's younger sister, someone I once thought never liked me, sent a short message. I knew he was a jerk, but I never thought it would be Jenna. "Leah, I'm truly sorry." I didn't reply, but I smiled, because for the first time in months I realized I had survived. No more counting days, no more checking messages, no more wondering what time he'd come home. I had taken back control, not by striking back, but by choosing a different path. And that path, though quiet, was clean, honest, and mine alone. A year later, I leaned against the balcony railing of my new apartment, a warm cup of mint tea in hand. Yellow leaves scattered over the hair of a little girl chasing the ball, and something inside me felt light. No more hushed footsteps through the house. No more unfamiliar perfume on the pillow. No more questioning whether today would be another lie. I was still Leah, but a different version. This penthouse was the first choice I made in a long time, just for myself. No one's approval, no worry about seeming too feminine or not practical. I painted the living room walls olive green and hung up paintings I had hidden away because Ethan once said they were too abstract. On the kitchen shelf sat my favorite cookbooks. Coffee was always ready by 6:30 a.m., not because someone needed it, but because I loved the smell mixing with the morning news. I returned to full-time work at the law firm, where I had once taken a break to balance family life. 3 months ago I was officially promoted to Regional Deputy Legal Director. Something Ethan once said was, "Probably too much for you." My friends now say I've become the version of Leah they always hoped would come back. Even my family's perspective shifted. My father, once stern and reserved, now texts regularly. Last week he visited and brought a small lavender plant. "I saw you grow a lot of lavender on your balcony. This one's French, let's see if it fits in." I smiled, taking the pot like it was the greatest gift in the world. Because for him, care always came in small acts. My mother still occasionally brings up Jenna, but she's never asked me to forgive. She knows some cracks don't need sealing, they just need space to be left alone. Jenna had left Chicago. No one knew where she went. An old friend of hers messaged me saying Jenna left behind a long letter, apologizing for everything and saying she wanted to start over somewhere no one knew her. I wasn't curious. I didn't want to know how she was living. I only hoped she learned the lesson she once tried to teach me, through betrayal. I'd come to realize real strength isn't about having the last word. It comes from having the calm to stand up after a fall, and the clarity to never take the same path again. I still had fragile days. Days when I stumbled on old photos or when a song played that pulled up old memories. But those moments no longer dragged me down. They were simply proof that I had lived, I had hurt, and I had overcome. One Friday night, I invited a few close friends over. We made pizza from scratch, played soft music, and swapped ridiculous stories about our workplaces. As I poured the last glass of wine, one of them said, "Leah, you've changed. You're not the quiet older sister who always sacrifices anymore." I just smiled. No denial, no confirmation, just truth. Because yes, I was no longer a shadow of sacrifice. I was the woman who walked out of ruin not with bitterness but with calm and dignity, for myself. I didn't rush into new love, I wasn't in a hurry. I was loving myself deeply enough to know that anyone who enters my life from now on will have to walk into a space cleared of shadows, a space reserved only for respect. The wind began to slip through the leaves. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup and closed my eyes for a moment. A year ago I sat in the dark, wrecked by betrayal from the two people I trusted most. Today, beneath a clear sky, I let the stillness settle because I knew the path I chose was mine and it was right. Through a year of upheaval, I've learned that betrayal doesn't define us, it's how we rise afterward that matters. I'm no longer the woman who crumbled under a husband and cousin's lies. I am firm, clear-eyed, and no longer negotiating with deceit. I didn't choose a path of cruel revenge, I chose wisdom and justice. And along the way I reclaimed not just my pride, but the strongest version of myself. What do you think about the way Leah faced betrayal from those closest to her? Would you have made the same choices she did? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more emotional family stories to come.